All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time it is in the cosmos when this video is finding you there. Welcome to Kai Chi Alchemy. You can call me Katchi. This is a space of love, y'all. Welcome or welcome back. I want to thank y'all for showing up. Thank you for co-creating community with me. Thank you for all of the engagement, the likes and the shares and the subscribes and the comments and things. Very helpful to getting these videos out to more people. This video is probably not going to make it to a lot of people because we're going to be reading a chapter from the Ringing Cedars of Russia series today. And it's a very, very, very short chapter here. Literally one page. It's on chapter 22 of book 2. And it is called Unravelling the Mystery. Standing in the kitchen of my small Moscow apartment, standing next to the table with the frankfurters getting cold and Lyosha Novichkov's head resting on the pages containing the text of Anastasia, I made a promise to myself to find a way of regaining my capital and getting back my ship with a view to taking it on the same journey as last year when I first met Anastasia. But not on a trade mission as before. I wanted to go there during the white nights of summer so that Lyosha, Anton, and Artem, as well as those who had worked like dogs in spite of all the setbacks and often to the neglect of their own material well-being, to organize a fellowship of purer-minded entrepreneurs, could enjoy a decent holiday aboard my ship in the most luxurious quarters. And what was this grand idea all about in any case? What kind of hold did it have on people? Why was I, too, drawn into it so closely? What kind of mystery did it conceal? I just had to figure this out, in concrete detail, and unravel its mystery and purpose. And why are people so turned on by this dream of a taiga recluse? What lies hidden there? How can I unravel the mystery? Moskovskaya Pravda correspondent Katya Golovina tried unraveling it by asking the students to explain what motivated them, what their personal stake was in all this. But they couldn't give a definitive answer, saying only that it was something worth doing. In other words, they were working on intuition. But what was behind this intuition? Oh boy. Do we have somebody hitting on me in the comments again? Again, always with the 2 or 3 warnings. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm sure you are also. Yesterday we were reading a chapter where we were talking about the fact that you may be called to do something, you may receive the opportunity to do something, or you need to jump before you know what the result is going to be, what the journey is going to look like, what it is exactly that you're getting yourself into. And on one level, there's a clouding of the intuition, there's a blocking of your intuition for one reason or another, so you can't see the details of what's up in front of you, but you're being called to jump before you know anyways. And here it seems that the reason you were being called to do something before you knew the results that it was going to create, is just because it's, what did they say? What did the kids say at the college? It's something worth doing because I have a feeling. I have an intuition. Happy Mercury retrograde, Jupiter in Leo, Sun in Cancer. How have y'all been doing with this so far? I feel kind of like my head is in a washing machine. And that seems very in alignment with all of the archetypes there. So if you're having any kind of similar experience, just know this too shall pass. And just like everything else, there is a purpose to the madness. And it is creating something helpful and necessary. And it won't last forever. Hello, Audrey. Thank you. Appreciate it. We do have another chapter that's just untitled. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and read it because I don't think that will be too confusing. I don't know. Let's see. Let's check it out together. Before I do that though, before the camera started, I was shuffling the Flower Tarot deck a little bit, and we got Ace of Swords. Lupines maybe of significance. Blues, greens. What is blue and green? It's like speaking from your heart. That's very Ace of Swords. But like the truth, from the truth of your heart. So if the truth of your heart doesn't translate into words, what kind of swords energy might you be able to utilize to express your heart truth in a more accurate way? What kind of swords energy is not English or Spanish or Russian or whatever your native language is? Do you deal with things like apraxia? Do you deal with things like a visual thought process? Like, do you think in words, or do you think in feelings and colors and tastes and sounds and images and energies and concepts? And maybe there is a new way for you to process and a new way for you to communicate so that people aren't as inspired, motivated to try and distill something down, to make your complicated truth more simple than it is, or to make your simple truth more complicated than it is. Do you feel like when you speak your truth, when it comes out of your mouth, that those words are just used against you to paint you into a light that is not what you intended to communicate in the first place, and then people make you feel bad, shameful, guilty for your inability to communicate your heart truth to them? It's some of both. There is some responsibility to you to learn how to translate things for people. But I guess it's just in the energy of entitlement and expectation and righteous indignation that is going to tell you when you need to set some boundaries around that and give yourself the safe space to learn how to do this better. If you do struggle in expressing your heart truth, speaking from the heart, and then being heard, being received. Ooh, before we start this other chapter, let me see if there's any clarification that wants to come out here about this Ace of Swords, about this collective here today that's being called to do something based off of instincts or based off of intuition without fully knowing why or what the result is or what the excuse is. You don't need an excuse, especially if you think and process without words. So this is definitely encouraging you. If there's anybody giving you a hard time for moving on your intuition and choosing based off of the wisdom of your heart rather than whatever institution or identity pattern, you don't need to worry about that. You know the truth. You have the truth. You hold the truth. If people want to come get that, if they're capable, if they're ready and willing, that's up to them. Ace of Swords, Ace of Cups. Clarified by Ace of Cups. Interesting, right? Because we were talking about speaking from the heart. Cups is also watery intuition energy, right? And the tulip is a flower all about value. And in fact, tulips at one point in time, I forget all of the details of the history, but I know at one point in time, tulips were worth more than money because 11:44 on the clock, because we placed that value on them. We can place that value on anything for any kind of reason. I think the tulips, the reasoning was sort of like beauty, something like that. So what do you value? What is important to you? And protect that. Protect what is important to your heart. Truly, deep down, when nobody has anything to say about it. What is true for you? What is true for your heart? This is looks like a left hand, and this looks like a right hand. You may want to speak, utilizing your shadow a little bit in some situation coming up. Speak from your shadow in a protective way, in a integrated shadow kind of a way, and focus on what brings your heart joy and inspiration and peace, what helps you to feel that beauty. And the more you feel into this Ace of Cups within you, this true value, what you actually value in your heart, this will allow you to speak your truth more clearly and more effectively to a wider range of people. But never, always remember that not everybody is going to hear, not everybody is going to understand. But again, it's a two-way street. So there are things that you can do to get in more alignment, to make your mission, your vision, your message clearer and more broadly applicable and more easy to comprehend to the masses, but not at the expense of watering it down and changing it so much that it's no longer actually what you think and feel, and it's just a mask and a performance and an attempt to be seen. But at that point, you're being seen for something that you never were. Does this collective need any additional clarification on this Ace of Swords, Ace of Cups, lupines, tulips, using words to protect ourselves, using emotional energy to get to know ourselves? What is this? Justice! That is the justice. And that's so fun, right? Because there's two here. There's this energy of balance. They're both aces, right? The ace of air and the ace of water. And so it's a masculine and a feminine energy. And they work together. And in the way we just spoke of, those two energies working together brings the justice, balances the scales, cuts through the illusions. It's there's a sword right here, like the Ace of Swords, and then on the scales, water is like a 2 energy, and there are 2 little bowl things that they put on the scales. But you could put liquids in there if you wanted to. So it's like you might have different emotions that seem contradictory, but if you work through them to understand them, to get into the nuance of them, to feel through them, you might actually be able to find a way to integrate them and balance them, and you know what I mean? To hold space for all of your emotions in a way that doesn't diminish any of them, that holds them up, but doesn't hold any of them up higher than any other ones, so that your expression of your emotions is truth. A lot of times people think their expression of emotion is truth, but they're really just over the top in rage or fear or lust or whatever. And it's because they're putting one emotion that is true higher than all of these other ones. And so it's not just the content. Sometimes it is like the organization, the quality, the intensity of something that makes it so. Okay. What happens when you have air and water? That can be like a hurricane. That can also be like that water that's like hydrolyzed and really good for you. It comes from a spring, right? A bubbling spring. So this energy could be destructive or it could be supportive, and that depends on how you use it. And how you use it is going to determine whether that process brings true justice, or if it brings the kind of justice that is just sprouted from righteous indignation and imbalanced emotions and stubbornness and poor communication and projection, and something is going to be impacted, and you get to decide in what way. But it doesn't really matter what the specifics of your situation is. You're going to find this balance as long as you keep in mind holding space for your emotions, feeling your emotions, creating the space for you to fully experience those emotions, while also using your words to protect yourself, to ward off other people that you don't need around that are a detriment, and to speak your truth in the most effective way possible, giving people really the opportunity to choose. And if you don't communicate to a certain level of effectiveness, they don't really have the opportunity to choose, right? Not really. And I feel that this whole process is going to be running throughout the length of Mercury retrograde in one way or another. So be patient with yourself as you tap into what you're really feeling right now, even if it is intense and contradictory and overwhelming. Really prioritize that, and really prioritize the restructuring of your communication and taking that inspiration when you need to move from your integrated shadow. All right, so since this chapter was so short, I'm also going to read chapter 23. This one is untitled, like the other one before. Thank you. My day has been very good. How about yourself? Oh no. Hmm. All right. Chapter 23, Untitled. At Moscow Print Shop number 11, 2,000 copies of the first slim volume about Anastasia were printed at the shop's own expense. Why did the manager, Gennady Vladimirovich Grutsia, decide to print a book by an unknown author? Why would he do this? And in spite of the print shop's current financial difficulties, use offset paper instead of the usual newsprint? The first books I sold myself near the entrance of the Taganskaya metro station. Then I got some help from some of the book's first readers. An elderly woman would daily stand and sell copies outside the Dobryninskaya metro station. She would take great pains to explain in detail to anyone interested what a wonderful book it was. Why? Then readers began selling it as well in vacation centers on the outskirts of Moscow. They would print out announcements and organize readers' gatherings for people holidaying there. Then the business manager of the Moscow Publishers Clearance House, Yuri Anatolovich Nikitin, suddenly decided to offer the print shop an advance on an additional 2,000 copies. His actions were strange and unexpected. He drove over to see me in his car and told me, "My son and I are leaving the country today to go to a tennis tournament. Our plane goes tonight. I need to hurry to get my payment in." He paid for the second print run in full. When the time came for him to pick up his books, Nikitin told me, "You know, during the summer we don't do a lot of book selling. I'll take several packages. The rest you take care of yourself. When money starts coming your way, you can reimburse me." Again, why? Right from the moment I started working on the manuscript, there have been many whys associated with the book, even to this day. It's almost as though the book were alive, drawing people unto itself and using their help to break through into life. I used to think that the events connected with it were pure coincidence. Only those coincidences started tying themselves together into a pattern. Now I have no idea, in all that has happened, just what is coincidence and what is in conformity with the law. The two have become exceedingly difficult to tell apart. What is coincidence and what is in conformity with a law? What a deep and wide-ranging question right there. Gets down to the nature of reality for people. Do you believe in coincidences? We're much more interested in questions than purely answers here. I take questions much more seriously than answers most of the time. And I would say it's all been in conformity with the law. I'm not sure if I know how to elucidate what that law is right now, but I can feel it, so I know that I will be able to soon as I feel into what that feeling is and find some way to communicate it with y'all better. But I think that if it's important, then you already know. You can already feel. So I think that this may reflect in some of y'all's lives in whatever you're being called into. It's something bigger than yourself. Even if it seems small, even if it seems only relevant to your personal life from the external to some people. I feel like that there's something, like at least subconsciously, that there's something about what you're being called into, even if it is the way that you express and generate ideas and energy, and that is going to positively impact the world at large. And the more you can get into the feeling of that, the more you can get into the groove of that, the more you can get into the vortex of that, the more you can get into the focusing on that energy of service, that energy of a pure and genuine desire to give to others, not out of martyrdom and not out of manipulation, but out of love and generosity and this like spiritual purity, this spiritual urge to move in a certain way, to give that excess energy to something truly aligned and truly beneficial for the greater good. And the more you're aligned with that, the way that you will know, it's not to say that if you come against challenges that is a message that you should stop trying. But if you ever have a moment where you're like, this just doesn't make sense. Why? Why are things working out this way? This is too good. This is too easy. They're too helpful. This is too something. Why? If you find yourself asking those questions, in those moments, remind yourself that the reason why is because you are in alignment. You are in flow. You are in that vortex. And the more that you learn to move from that energy, the more you will be supported, the more the universe will give you whatever you want. But not just because you're desperately grasping for it, because you actually believe that you deserve it, that the universe wants to give you everything that you need and want, that you truly need and want what you need and want from a higher perspective, all of these things. So every once in a while, allow yourself to recognize the little winks from the universe. We notice so often when things go awry, when things work out a way we would not like. We want to blame it on Mercury retrograde or our boss or our mom or the guy who cut us off in the road. We're so quick. We're so quick to call out when things are working a way that they should not, in our perspective, in the negative. But how often do we acknowledge when things work out for the good? We're just like, whew, okay, that's right, that's expected. That makes up for all the bad stuff. Okay. And you just move on. When we could actually be milking that and getting more in alignment, more into gratitude, more into unshakable truth. And I understand sometimes it feels like things are genuinely just so challenging and negative all around. And it's reaching to appreciate when things work out. I would say, not just for this collective, but in general. Do that. Force it. Make it, even if it feels contrived. It's like when you first start the gratitudes journal, It's gonna feel hokey. It's gonna feel fake. Kind of. And that's true on a level. But it also is true that you are grateful for something good happening. And so look for the littlest, tiniest things. If you have a hard time getting this certain door or like keypad unlocked, and it goes real smoothly one day, even if you don't say anything, see if you can notice that. If you always have like a real hard time putting the right shoe on the right foot, or like tying them up the right way, if you have a hard time remembering to bring your lunchbox with you to work or school or whatever, see how often you can catch yourself and acknowledge and express gratitude to the universe, to your life, to yourself, for allowing this tiny, insignificant, positive, productive moment to exist in your life. So cool. So cool. Oh man. Okay. That is our time today. We're going to be reading Father Theodoret next chapter. Probably not tomorrow because I do have some tarot stuff to get into for y'all. This is a very, 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 very long chapter. Wow. Yeah. It's like 20 pages almost. So we'll have to make sure we have enough time for that, but it's so fantastic. Father Theodoret. Looking very forward to that. Looking very forward to our tarot and continuum concept readings and everything else that we have coming down the pipeline. This has been a very fun, interesting Cancer season so far, and I appreciate y'all for being here with me, especially if you feel like your head is in a washing machine as well. Yeah. Love, light, peace, and personal responsibility. I will see you next time. I love you so much, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening, morning, afternoon, etc.